This is a video of Charlie Kirk debating Israel-Palestine on his debate tour. Let's take a look.
You think that Israel should displace the Palestinians from Palestine to Egypt and Jordan?
It's a tough question. I will say this, guys. I'm happy to do the whole afternoon on Israel, but let's try to get at other questions. But
that's what I'm. That's
I'm
what
not blaming you. I'm just
okay.
to the audience.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question. I don't know what the solution is. I don't.
So you think it's right for them to ethnically
I'm not saying it's right.
them?
I'm saying the solution is.
This is not ethnic cleansing in any way, because if you want it to be ethnic cleansing, you need to remove the ethnicity from, for example, let's say you take the Jews and you completely remove them from Arab countries. You take the ethnicity of Jews and you remove it. If you take the Palestinians, that's not their ethnicity, that's their nationality. Their ethnicity is Arabs. They're Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula. So let's say they live in Egypt. They're not being ethnically cleansed. They remain with the same ethnicity, Arabs. Same applies to the Jordanians. They're also Arabs. Zahir Moshin once said that the Palestinians are exactly the same as the Lebanese, as the Syrians, as the Jordanians. All of them are Arabs. And only for political gains, Palestinians were developed. The identity was developed to oppose Zionism. That's why. So it's not going to be ethnic cleansing.
Very difficult because the people of Gaza have shown that they are incapable of self-government.
Sure.
Incapable. That when they are given self-government, it becomes a terrorist hotbed, and it becomes a nightmare for the Jewish people, and war ensues. So I don't.
By the way, both applies to Gaza and the West Bank. The Palestinians cannot be under the PA. And if there would be a second elections right now, Hamas would be elected. And same applies to the Gazans. They cannot be controlled by Hamas because Hamas brings only destruction. Jihad brings only destruction. So his point stands.
Right, but my question here is, do you think it's ethnic cleansing to forcibly tell them to get out of Gaza?
Again, I'm not even saying I support it.
Because this is what Trump said.
I know what Trump said. I'm not even saying that I think that's a good idea. I do want someone to tell me what the solution is, though. Because that's an idea.
Yes, Egypt actually offered the solution, but Trump actually was against it.
What would you say the solution is?
A little clarity on the Egypt point that he just brought up. First of all, Egypt completely refused to take Gaza back when Israel offered the Sinai Peninsula back after they conquered it. They refused to take it back. Why did they refuse to take it back? Because the Palestinians gave problems to the Egyptians. Same applies to Jordan. Jordan never wanted to take the West Bank back, despite the fact it doesn't even belong to them, because the Palestinians tried to make a coup in Jordan, and then they were kicked out to Lebanon. So is this ethnic cleansing that some Palestinians were kicked out of Jordan to Lebanon? Of course it's not ethnic cleansing. They were the same ethnicity. Arabs living with Arabs, it's the same. Let's continue.
The solution is to have an Arab state to govern them, basically, and for Hamas not to be in control. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So we had something close to that, though.
By the way, if you guys want to hear about something really interesting, look up Mordechai Kedar's Emirates plan. Gaza is organized by tribes, meaning we have the tribe of Khan Yunis, the tribe of Rafah, and etc., etc. The roads in Gaza are already dividing the tribes by their tribes, meaning that if you take each section and you make it into an emirate, a small city-state, just like in the UAE, you can create a system that could be beneficial both for Israel and the Palestinians. Meaning, if something happens from the tribe of Rafah, the family of Rafah is the one that's going to be paying. And when you personally pay, you don't do. Same applies to the West Bank, the tribe of Jenin, the Tamimi tribe, Aya Tamimi. She's from the Tamimi tribe, the Tamimi family, a very big known family in the West Bank. So this system could work. City-states, Palestinian Emirates. Look it up.
Years where Gaza was controlled by Hamas. Gaza democratically elected Hamas.
In 2006, that's correct. But they weren't able to democratically elect again after 2006. That's correct.
Because the people liked it.
It's not because people liked it. It's because they didn't have any other choice but to do that.
We don't know.
Choosing a terrorist organization to rule you and to govern you. What do you think? You're going to get elections every 4 years? You think you're going to get alternatives when you choose a terrorist organization? I don't think so. Same applies to the PA. If they're going to do another elections right now, after 20 years of not holding an election, more than 20 years of not holding an election, who do you think is going to get elected? It rhymes with kastach, rhymes with falach. That's right. Hamas.
Might be right. I might be right. I think I'm right. Let me tell you why.
Okay, why?
Because when the terrorists went and killed a bunch of Jews on October 7th.
Yes, I know that a lot of people were happy to see. Yes,
tens
and why?
of thousands.
Why is that? Why is that? Because it didn't start on October 7th. It didn't start on October 7th.
Yeah, but
No, it's not because of that. It's because they are Islamists and they believe in the idea the Jews should be killed, the Jews should be eradicated, that this is Palestinian state, that this is a Muslim state. And because they saw the Jews, a lot of Jews were getting killed, they were happy about it. Has nothing to do with October 7th and the occupation and Zionism and ethnic cleansing and apartheid. No, it's got to do with radical Islamist ideology. That's it. That's it.
this is where we're going to disagree.
Okay.
So I look at things in the term of right and wrong,
Sure.
and just and unjust, not oppressor or oppressed. A different worldview that could be on the left, not saying you are, would say, hey, the people of Gaza.
Yeah, I voted for Trump, by the way.
No, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. For sure, great. We just might not agree on this issue. The people of Gaza, some people would say, hey, it's been a bubbling up problem. We're going to justify what's happening on October 7th. We look at that and we say it's never acceptable to go and kidnap and to go cut throats, unprovoked, unprompted.
Sure,
on a holy
it's
day.
against international law, and
Yeah.
I believe that Israel as well, like where they did a lot of things that were against international law as well.
It's funny how nobody talks about the crimes of Hamas, international law violations that Hamas did. Let's talk about a few. First of all, taking hostages is a severe violation of international law. Burning people alive, unprovoked and provoked, technically, doesn't matter, is a violation of international law. Using civilians' homes to fire rockets from, that's a violation of international law. Using hospitals and schools and churches to hold ammunition and to hide your combatants in your tunnel piers, that's a violation of international law. Using ambulances to hide your terrorists inside, that's a violation of international law. Invading a sovereign country and targeting innocent civilians, that's a violation of international law. When you talk about war crimes of Israel, it's almost inevitable not to break international law when you fight such a complex war. Always think about Hamas and how many international law violations they had on October 7th and since October 7th. And they also fire rockets from Gaza to Israel, and they land within civilian territory in Gaza. 1 out of every 4 rockets lands in Gaza, killing Gazans. Which death toll do you think they put them in? The one that the IDF did, not the one that they did.
Well, I don't quite know what that would mean, but yeah, I mean,
War crimes,
such as
mass people.
Yeah, man, it's just, again, I don't want to keep going in circles, but it's like, I can't see a single instance of Israel going out of its way to kill civilians.
You don't see it in a single instance of what?
Israel going out of its way to kill civilians. I see Israel going out of its way.
So you don't believe what they've done is genocide?
No, of course not. Because, all right, let's get our terms. Let's just go, what is genocide?
A genocide is mass a certain group because of their ethnicity, race, or culture or religion.
So was October 7th a genocide?
It wasn't a genocide, no.
Of course it was a genocide. It was an intent to commit a genocide against the Jewish people, because if the IDF would not have been there, then what do you think would have happened to the people of Israel? One by one, they would have been slaughtered by Hamas. One by one, while they're chanting Allahu Akbar and all of their chants that they chanted. Allah will repent you for your sins. We are the kuffars, guys. We are the kuffars. And Hamas invaded Israel for religious purposes, not for political ones. It was called the Al-Aqsa Flood. Such a political name, huh? And also, there's no genocide in the Gaza Strip. No genocide entails Israel releasing leaflets warning civilians, telling them to evacuate from the north to the south. No genocide involves soldiers going door to door looking for Hamas members trying to save civilian casualties. No genocide entails Israel creating humanitarian zones for civilians so they can get food and water that Hamas keeps stealing for the civilians. This is not a genocide. Why would Israel vaccinate civilians against polio? So on one hand, you're trying to kill them. One hand, you're trying to vaccinate them and keep them safe. That doesn't make any sense. Open your brain just a little bit.
By your own definition.
Yeah, let me tell you why. Because the ICJ now is investigating Israel. They're not investigating Hamas for genocide, if you know that.
Who?
The ICJ?
Yeah, the ICJ is anti-Israel, has been for a while.
Let's talk about the ICJ, okay? First of all, the ICJ never claimed that Israel committed genocide in the Gaza Strip, and I would like to play you a clip. This is what a judge of the ICJ said.
It'd be fair to say, and I'm no lawyer, and many people watching and listening will not be lawyers, but would it be fair to say that the key point that you made your initial order and ruling upon was whether or not there was a plausible case that should be taken on by the court of genocide in the case of Israel's actions in Gaza after October 7? And you quite clearly decided that there was a plausible case. Is it right to say that's at the heart of what you decided?
You know, I'm glad I have a chance to address that, because the court's test for deciding whether to impose measures uses the idea of plausibility, but the test is the plausibility of the rights that are asserted by the applicant, in this case, South Africa. So the court decided that the Palestinians had a plausible right to be protected from genocide, and
Just like anybody else.
South Africa had the right to present that claim in the court. It then looked at the facts as well, but it did not decide, and this is something where I'm correcting what's often said in the media, it didn't decide that the claim of genocide was plausible. It did.
Thank you so much. That was her, and that was me, and the ICJ never ruled anything. So anything this guy says from now on, disregard, because he just lied on television. Charlie Kirk's debate.
Okay, yeah, sure they are. Why do you say that?
Well, because they're funded largely by Arab
They're funded by who?
monarchies.
Funded by who? Hamas?
Well, like by Qatar and Saudi Arabia and by very wealthy Gulf dictatorships.
So
but I just hold on. You're trying to say that Hamas was not investigated for what happened on October 7th?
Hamas is not being investigated by the ICJ of doing a genocide. Yes, that is
Have you
correct.
watched the videos?
I have watched the videos. Yeah,
And what
that
do
is
you-
correct. I feel like
you
it's
saw
I
the-
think
did you see the
Hamas-
one
I
where
think
the-
Hamas-
And
Okay.
when they were laughing, you saw that one?
Sure. I think Hamas, what they've done was barbarism. I think they're
How
a
is it not
terrorist
a
group.
war crime then?
I think Hamas is a terrorist group. I really think they are. But that doesn't justify what Israel has done so far. That's all I'm saying.
You don't need to see any videos to think that what Hamas has done since October 7th is a war crime. Just look at one thing. The hostages being held in the Gaza Strip, that's a war crime. You don't need to see any videos. Even if you see the videos, you'll see a lot more horrific things. But just the fact that you have hostages, including you had babies being held hostage in the Gaza Strip, that's a war crime, a severe one. So the fact that Hamas wasn't accused does show bias against Israel, both from the ICJ, both from the ICC, both from the UN.
Well, again, there's two separate things, but everything Israel did was
As of what October 7th, you believe that the Mossad, for example, is one of the biggest agencies in the world.
He's going to bring up the fact that the Mossad knew about October 7th and how could they not have prevented it. America, I can say the same thing about America. America knew about 9/11. Why did they not do anything to prevent it? Give me a break. Do you know how many alerts the IDF receives every single day about potential threats coming from the Gaza Strip? Do you know how prepared they have to be? So you say wolf, 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 and then you do something, then you start ignoring because nothing happens. And then this happens, October 7th, when you're not prepared at all on one of the holiest days for the Jewish people, Sukkot. I don't understand this guy's claims. I mean, it's pretty common within the pro-Pali community, these kinds of claims.
Might be even better than the CIA, right?
Yes and no. I don't think they're nearly as effective as people think they are, and I can prove it to you. But
let me just prove my point, please. So what I'm trying to say here is that basically the Mossad knew about the attack from Hamas because they only had like Chinese bicycles, bikes and stuff like that to go.
They didn't have only Chinese bicycles. They had paragliders. They had AK-47s. They had crazy ammunition. They had grenades. They had crazy drugs that they were on so they can kill as many Jews as possible and as many Israeli civilians as possible. So they didn't only have Chinese bicycles. They came with jeeps. They came well equipped. They knew exactly what they were doing. And this guy is once again lying.
So what I think is that basically the Mossad, they knew about this attack because Hamas basically is Israel's biggest asset. If Hamas wasn't there, they would have not killed anybody. So I think
I just want to make sure I understand your argument.
If Hamas would not have invaded Israel, not a single civilian in Gaza and Israel would have been killed. So if you want to blame anyone, blame Hamas. Don't blame Israel.
There's one part of the argument is asking, did Israel know? And was there a stand down order? I asked that question, never gotten an answer. You're going a step further.
We don't have proof.
And
that they knew.
hypothesizing that the Mossad, which is their CIA, wanted it to happen.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's insane.
Why do you think it's insane?
So you think that Mossad, which are Jews, wanted 1,300 Jews to die?
They didn't know that 1,300 people would die, but they wanted to see something so that they can be able to actually attack Palestine.
Guys, let's talk about something very interesting, okay? They wanted an excuse to be able to go inside Gaza. Why would they need an excuse if it happens almost every year? In 2008, Hamas fired a barrage of rockets into Israel. Israel then went into the Gaza Strip. Same applies to 2014. Hamas keeps firing rockets into Israel since 2006. They have enough reasons to go inside Gaza. They don't need to kill 1,300 people to search for an excuse to go inside Gaza. That literally makes no sense.
Got it. So we're just not going to agree because you have a much lower view of Jewish people than I do.
No, I believe in Israel's right to exist too.
No, I know, but what you're saying is that the Jewish leadership of Mossad
And the people you support don't believe in the right of the Jewish people to have a homeland called Israel. So what do you support exactly? I don't get it.
wanted the Hamas to attack.
Yes, because what I'm trying to tell you is that they had homemade drones too. Hamas had homemade drones that they use. Okay, so
I don't know what it means. What is homemade drones? Can somebody explain?
how were they not able to see all of that happening? Is all I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, first of all, part of it is a legitimate question, but getting to as far as saying that must be the case, it's a big leap. It was a holy day,
Sure.
right, which is very important. It was Shabbat, which is, 90% of IDF troops aren't there.
And let me just make another clarification about Shabbat. On Shabbat, as a soldier, you have something called Noal Shabbat. Noal Shabbat means you are not on duty. You are on duty. You have to do some guardings and stuff like that. But it's a lot lighter than the actual week that you serve in the army. So when you're on Noal Shabbat, all of the guards are way down for the soldiers. We're still very protective and everything applies. But on Noal Shabbat, specifically on the holiest day, one of the holiest days for the Jews, Sukkot, they decided to attack. And it's not only specifically 7th of October. That day symbolizes something else for the people in Gaza, for Hamas. Because if you remember, 50 years prior, Egypt attacked Israel on October 6 with one of the biggest wars launched against the Jewish people, of course, after the Holocaust. But then Hamas took their place, attacking Israel on October 7th, killing a lot more Jews, showing the Egyptians, we can kill a lot more people than you. We can kill a lot more Jews than you. And that's why they chose specifically 50 years after Egypt's attack on Israel.
But let me just kind of close on a moral question. Point, then a question. Number one, Hamas did not go after military targets.
Yes,
they
did
went
go
after civilian targets.
That's correct.
Inexcusable. Number two, though,
That's what they were able to put their hands on.
let me ask you a question. Who do you think there's a good guy or a bad guy in the equation of Israel versus Hamas?
As of who?
I'm asking, which one do you think is good, bad, better, or worse?
I think Hamas is bad. I think what the Israel government is doing is bad as well. That's why we don't have an
Got
agreement.
it. So let me
That's why we
ask
don't
you
have
just a
Go ahead.
hypothetical, and I don't mean to be interruptive.
Sure.
What should Israel have done in response to 1,300 people in the most horrendous way?
Nobody can answer this question. Nobody. You'll see he won't be able to answer. I can predict it from now.
Target Hamas members in a better way, to not mass
What is a
kill
better
people.
way? Explain what that looks
Well,
like.
there's a reason why they have special forces. There was a reason why they have the
used
best
them.
military. There's a reason
They
why they
used
have the
them.
best military equipment in the world, so that they'll be able to target Hamas members.
Well, America has the best equipment in the world, and when they went to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, they did not spare a lot of civilians' lives because this is war. And I understand that in war people die. It's horrific that people die, but nobody can name a single war where civilians don't die. And in this specific war, Israel was extremely, extremely careful with targeting innocent civilians. They were not their target. Hamas was their target, but Hamas uses those civilians as pawns. They want them to die. They want you to look at the videos. They want you to get upset. They want you to get emotional. They want it because then you'll call out Israel, falling into their small little trap that they created just for you, the West.
Yeah, but they did all of that, and so I never get a concrete answer. So
Same.
what I just want is I'm not going to defend everything that every IDF soldier ever did, but I find
Same.
it so interesting that everything that Israel does gets so hyper-examined through this lens that no other country ever gets held to the standard of, ever.
Nobody does anything like Israel.
Nobody does things like Israel, he's right. Israel has the most humane army in the world by releasing leaflets, evacuating civilians, creating safe zones, humanitarian zones. When America went to Iraq and Afghanistan and Hiroshima, and they did what they did not spare civilian lives. Nobody was holding America to the standard that Israel is being held. When Russia invaded Ukraine in the first 2 weeks, close to 25,000 people died because of the war. Nobody accused Russia of genocide. In the first 2 weeks, if he thinks that nobody's treating the Palestinians like Israel is treating the Palestinians, then please explain to me, why did Jordan remove the Palestinians from Jordan? Some Palestinians, the PLO from Jordan. Why did they do it? I can tell you why. Because they tried to make a coup. They tried to control the Hashemite kingdom, to remove the Hashemite kingdom. So they were removed to South Lebanon. And guess who's not treating them well in South Lebanon? The Lebanese. They don't have any basic rights. They're not allowed to be doctors. They're not allowed to be lawyers. No rights in Lebanon. 3 generations already, no rights in Lebanon. Why is nobody getting upset? So the hypocrisy of the world and the fact that Israel is being held to a much higher standard is absurd.
With Palestine, yeah.
You believe that no other country does what Israel does?
With Palestine, yeah.
You think that no? I want you to just pause. You think that from the African civil wars?
Has anybody done anything worse to the Palestinians more than Israel?
Yeah. A lot of people have actually, like the internment camps throughout China for the Uyghur Muslims, or the North Korean open-air concentration camps.
Well, basically, they didn't commit genocide. They didn't want ethnic cleansing.
But let me just close with this.
Right?
And this is not your. What's your name?
Yusuf.
Yusuf. This is.
His name is Yusuf, guys. He was a Muslim all along. Of course he would think this way. Only Muslims believe that what's happening in Gaza, not only, the majority of the people believing that there's a genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing in Gaza are Muslims, because they're being taught to hate Israel. They're being taught to hate the Jewish state. Of course, I should have known. I should have known he was a Muslim.
Not your fault, but it is an intentional provocation, and I find it to be repulsive, not you, but generally, the overuse of the word genocide. Because when you keep on using genocide, you're basically trying to cheapen actual genocides that have happened the last 100 years.
Why would I have to cheapen it? I still believe that there are other genocides that happen too.
So you think
so you think if I say that it's a genocide,
I just want to make sure I understand this. You think that Israel's intentionally trying to kill as many people of Gaza as possible?
Yes.
Every time somebody says yes to this question, ask him, what does Israel gain from targeting innocent civilians? What do they gain from it? I want to see what people will say.
Well, they're not doing a great job of it because the population keeps on going up.
I love watching Israel-Palestine debates. If you want to watch more reaction videos or my own debates, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be exposed to very similar content. Until next time, thank you guys. Bye-bye.